Good morning! It's good to see your lovely faces online today. We're finishing up our 3-week series called Love Hate. We'll be talking about letting love fill in the blank. What does that mean? Make sure you stick around to learn the importance about it. So, before we start, I want to encourage you to fill out a Connect card or a prayer request on the links above. You can even ask your host to pray for you right now with the live prayer link. Hope you guys enjoyed the service, and I'll see you all after the message. Roots online service starts right now. Insert black screen.
Waking up knowing there's a reason. All my dreams come alive. Life is for living. With you, I made my decision. You lift me up, fill my eyes with wonder. Forever young in your love, it's freedom's untainted. With you, no moment is wasted. See the sun now bursting through the clouds, black and white. There's a color all around, all is new. In the Savior I am found. This is living now. This is living now. Lead the way, God, you're right beside me. In your love, I'm complete. There's nothing like living with you. It's life you created. I choose. Hey, see the sun now bursting through the clouds, black and white. There's a color all around, all is new. In the Savior I am found. This is living now. This is living now. You take me higher than I've been before. It's your perfect love that sees me so. God, your freedom is an open door. You are everything I want and more. Maybe I ain't really know what living is. Is it love? If I was, I'm living it. Do I live in it? So astounding. Love is an ocean, you could drown me. Sweet embrace, the lovely taste I taste and see I'm under grace, the place to be. It means that I'll never need an umbrella. I'm cool in the cold and the hot weather, whether I never ever understand. I'm a girl in the hands of great plans to stand with faith in a life I never known or touched. It's still time to clutch, but I'm like, what's the dream of? What's the hope in? What's the die for? Live to no end. This is living. The life I've been given to give. If I'ma live it, I'ma live to death. So what's the dream of? What's the hope in? What's the die for? Live to no end. This is living. The life I've been given to give. If I'ma live it, I'ma live to death. Yeah. This is living now. Hey, you take me higher than I've been before. It's your perfect love that sees me so. God, your freedom is an open door. You are everything I want and more. Open wide, blinded eyes, giants fall, dead men rise, sickness healed at the mention of you. Sinners' chains breaking free, miracles still happening, waters part, I see mountains move. No other name carries the power to save, crushes the power of the grave. But Jesus, control what tomorrow will bring, but I know here in the middle is the place where you promised to be. Not enough unless you come. Will you meet me here again? 'Cause all I want is all you are. Will you meet me here again? As I walk now through the valley, let your love rise above every fear, like the sun shaping the shadow. In my weakness, your glory appears. Not enough unless you come. Will you meet me here again? 'Cause all I want is all you are. Will you meet me here again? Not enough unless you come. Will you meet me here again?
Hey guys, I'm so glad you could join us today for a third and final week of our Love-Hate series. The first week we talked about how words of gossip are rotten words that come out of our mouth and how they're no good at building others up. And last week we talked about using humility and grace when we speak up to someone. When we speak up, we need to let love be our filter. And this week we're going to talk about letting love fill in the blank. Okay, so go with me on this. I know malls, they are completely dying right now, and all because of Amazon and online shopping and all that stuff. But I still think malls are fascinating places. Besides the fact that it is high quality, grade A people watching, malls are a place where hundreds of very different brands with completely different vibes all sit side by side. And I mean, right now, my office, as I'm looking out my office, I'm looking out at a ginormous outlet mall. Each store is very different from each other, but people walk shop to shop checking out what there is. Maybe you've never thought about brands having vibes or personalities or reputations, but they do. Think about it. There's a difference between Nike and Sperry, right? Even though they both sell shoes, you instantly know when you walk by which is which. Or what about Urban Outfitters and H&M? They literally sell the same products to the same age people, but there's just something different about them. Or even over in the promenade by the movie theater, you have the Van store and Zumiez right close to each other. And Zumiez even sells Vans, but they still have a different vibe and personality. Vans has more of the average Southern Californian vibe. And Zumiez is more about the Southern California skater kid vibe. And you see, every store has their own personality. And here's why I think that's fascinating. Companies spend billions of dollars each year trying to control those brands' reputations. The look, the smell, the thing they're known for, those aren't accidents. They're carefully decided. And here's what I mean. I'm going to read you a reputation, and you tell me which brand it is. Number 1, 2-day or less lightning fast shipping. What is that? It's Amazon. Number 2, the lowest prices always. What is that? That's Walmart. Number 3, the best cell phones ever. Okay, I know a few would probably argue with me on this, but I personally think it's Apple. Number 4, free music streaming. What is that? It's Spotify. Number 5, the best chicken sandwich ever. What do you think? Chick-fil-A or Popeyes? Chick-fil-A? Popeyes? Here's the point. Companies hire hundreds of people and spend billions of dollars trying to shape something that every one of us has and most of us spend very little time thinking about: our reputation. Our reputations are made up of all sorts of things and bring out all kinds of assumptions about who we are. Just think about the various groups in your school and the assumptions that you've made about people who are part of them. Assumptions like, okay, every rich kid is fill in the blank, or the white or the black or the Hispanic or the Asian kids, they are fill in the blank. The people with TikTok clout are fill in the blank. The AP honor students are fill in the blank. The football cheerleaders are fill in the blank. The people that are really into band are fill in the blank. The kids who vape, they're fill in the blank. The kids from Cam High are fill in the blank. The kids from Rancho Campana are fill in the blank. And even though we don't say them out loud, or at least we shouldn't say them out loud, we all tend to fill in the blanks about other people, to assume that we know what to expect from them now and what they're capable of and how they'll respond in any situation. In other words, how we fill in the blank now determines what we expect from them next. Whether we know the person or not doesn't matter. We know their reputation, or we build one for them in our minds based on a single action or a single person in their group. And this isn't a teenager thing, this is a human thing because we all do it. So where do these assumptions come from? Well, I think they come from a lot of places, but the following stand out the most. The first one is our experiences. We have experiences of what someone like them did or said to us, and we use those experiences to prejudge what this person is like. The next one is insecurities. Sometimes our assumptions are formed from our insecurities, and the person we're filling in the blank about has something that we want or we wish that we had, and they have the starting position on the team or the house or family could never afford, and it's annoying, and so we automatically assume that the worst about them because they remind us of how far that we feel from being the best. And I remember going into the restaurant world for a year in my life when I was 27, and I had just served as a youth pastor at a church for 5 years, and I just got hired as a server for a brand new restaurant. And when the rest of the servers heard that I was a pastor previously, they all started to close me out. They thought I was going to be uptight and judgmental. I mean, that's what their experience of Christians was before. And their fear of me judging them moved them to judge me. And I didn't get angry about it because I've been there too. I make prejudgments all the time based on my past experiences and insecurities. I was doing the same thing with them. And our limited experiences and insecurities cause us to fill in the blanks and convince ourselves that we know way more about somebody than we actually do, that we can literally predict their future. And it's kind of illogical when you think about it. And it can be a problem if we really want to be known for love rather than hate. Because often, to be honest, we don't fill in the blank with something nice. The ironic part is that we hate it when someone else does this to us, but how do we resist the temptation to do the same thing to others? And so there is a moment from Jesus' life that may be able to help us. Jesus was in the middle of a tense encounter with some of the religious leaders in Israel at the time. And these leaders of the law and the Pharisees, they were a big deal in religious circles and had a brand of self-righteousness that they thought that set them apart from everyone else. So when Jesus came around and started spending time with the people the religious leaders had branded as the sinners or the people who weren't as close to God as they were, things got pretty tense. And they actually started trying to catch Jesus off guard with questions that they hoped would prove he was phony. They wanted him to slip up and answer something in a way that took away his credibility and made him look bad. So during one of these encounters, after some people had gathered to listen to Jesus teach in the temple, the religious leaders caught a woman in an R-rated situation. So they dragged her in front of Jesus to see how he would handle the punishment. And I think that what unfolds here shows us a different way to live instead of filling in the blanks about other people's reputations. So check this out in John 8:3-6. As he was speaking, the teachers of the religious law and the Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in the act of adultery. They put her in front of the crowd. "Teacher," they said to Jesus, "this woman was caught in the act of adultery. The law of Moses says to stone her. What do you say?" They were trying to trap him into saying something they could use against him. So don't miss this. The text says that this woman had been caught in the act. She was literally committing adultery when the leaders found her. We can assume that she was already pretty humiliated, and the law demanded that people respond by literally throwing rocks at her until she died. On a side note, the law also demanded that the guy who was in the act of adultery also be stoned to death. But where was he in the situation? This just shows the religious leaders' lack of respect to women. And so, when they brought this woman forward, the religious leaders wanted to make Jesus choose in front of a crowd of people. He was going to overlook this woman's obvious sin and ignore the law of Moses, which would take away Jesus' credibility as a teacher in anger of the religious leaders. Or he would allow her to be stoned, causing the crowd to turn on him. It was a complete trap for Jesus. And the leaders knew it was a trap. And that was the point. So let's look at what happens next. In verse 6-11, it says, "But Jesus stooped down and wrote in the dust with his finger. They kept demanding an answer. So he stood up again and said, 'All right, but let the one who has never sinned throw the first stone.' Then he stooped down again and wrote in the dust. When the accusers heard this, they slipped away one by one, beginning with the oldest, until only Jesus was left in the middle of the crowd with the woman. Then Jesus stood up again and said to the woman, 'Where are your accusers? Didn't even one of them condemn you?' "No, Lord," she said. And Jesus said, "Neither do I. Go and sin no more." So Jesus, right there, mic drop. And I'm not sure we can fully understand the tension of this moment. These religious leaders who built their brand on appearing better than others and pointing out the sins of others are totally put in their place. Basically, Jesus is saying, hey, you're quick to point out what everyone else has gotten wrong, but what about you? Have you ever gotten it wrong? Then one by one, these leaders realize their plan had backfired, and Jesus kindly and lovingly releases the woman who is literally afraid for her life and tells her to go in freedom and live her life differently. Can you imagine that? And don't miss this. Everyone here was guilty of something, both the religious leaders and this woman. And Jesus had a message for both of them. What is possible for your future isn't determined by your past. Not if you're a Pharisee and not if you're the woman. Both are guilty and both are free to go. Both had a reputation for being one way, and both can choose to leave differently than they arrived. Jesus challenged the woman to change by saying, "Go and sin no more," because no matter her reputation, he believed change was possible for her. It was such a Jesus move. He changed everything because he responded in love to everyone in the situation. And it's exactly what you and I should be about too. But isn't it true that sometimes we're more on brand with the religious leaders? Don't we often fill in the blanks about other people based on their behavior one time? Don't we tend to assume that we already know what will happen next in their story because of what has happened before or even what we think they may have done? But Jesus' approach to the situation in the story teaches us something different. The woman who had a brand or a reputation for being bad, who everyone judged based on this one thing that she had done, saw her as more than this one thing. He believed something was possible in her future. No matter her past, he didn't write a story about who she was because of what she had been caught doing. He didn't fill in the blank for her, even though he knew everything about her. He saw her as a whole person. And as a whole person, he saw her as being deserving of another chance. So Jesus proved that we are more than the assumptions or the judgments others make of us. We are worthy of forgiveness, grace, and a second chance because of his love for us. And we can extend the same forgiveness and grace and love to others too. So what if this was the approach that you and I started to take when forming our opinions of other people? What if instead of filling in the blanks with assumptions and judgments, we choose to believe anyone could radically change? What if we believed anyone could surprise us and be far better than they think that they are? What if we chose to let love fill in the blank? This would change a lot about the way that we think about and treat other people, wouldn't it? Not only that, this would also change a lot about the way that we think of ourselves too. We may wind up realizing that we're not as terrible as other people have made us feel, or we're not as perfect as we may think. There is something both encouraging and humbling about Jesus' approach. It puts all of us on the same level. As people God loves and people Jesus died to forgive and set free, not just the sum total of our actions. It's all about Jesus' grace and how he sees us. In other words, when we fill in the blank with judgment or hate, we are only seeing part of a person, their actions, or whatever they did that was wrong or something that we didn't like. But when we fill in the blank with love, we are seeing others as humans, more than what they have or haven't done, but as individuals, as people whose story isn't over, whose story isn't ever even written yet. So when the opportunities for assumptions and judgments start flying at you, take these next steps towards a new approach. Number one, stop and think about how others have filled in the blanks about you. When you make an assumption about someone, about how they are or what they will do, stop. Stop and think about your own life. When have people underestimated you? How have they judged you? How have you experienced the other side of someone filling in the blank for you? Remember, Jesus' forgiveness brought you to a place where your life started to change for the better. Then treat other people the way that Jesus has treated you, with grace and love, assuming their best days can be ahead of them. The second one, number 2, think about how you've wrongly filled in the blanks for someone else. Who is someone that you think that you know, but you really don't know? Who have you filled the blanks in for in a negative way without learning the whole story of them? What if you chose to fill in the blanks about them with Jesus' brand of compassion? What if you chose to let love fill in the blank for what we think about someone now and what we expect for them in the future? Okay, here's where it gets a little personal. Everybody does this. We all need to ease up on our assumptions and judgments. But when it comes to church and church people, getting this right is even more important. Maybe you tend to assume that they don't belong here. Or maybe you tend to assume that, like, I don't belong here. I don't fit in this place. Or maybe they'll never change. I've always thought they would, but they never have. Or people like that, or people like me, they always, and then you fill in the blank. But here's the thing. Statements like those are easy as they are to make. They take the Christ out of Christianity. There's no Jesus in them. And so they should have no place here in us. Jesus made it so clear with the women, with the Pharisees, and with nearly everyone that he met that love never fills in the blank with never. There's always hope for change. So when we choose to follow Jesus' example and take those steps, we're choosing to let love fill in the blank instead of our quick or shallow assumptions and judgments about who they are now and who they can become. Jesus, just imagine with me what would happen if this is how we spent our time forming opinions of those around us. Instead of assumptions, stereotypes, and preconceived notions based on a part of a person, we should be people who believed everyone is worthy of love and has hope for a great future. If this is really what Jesus is about, doesn't it cause you to be a little more interested in his brand? So we can be people who let love fill in the blank about others. And when we do this, we will be people known for our love of others, just like Jesus was and just like Jesus intended for his people to be. So let me pray. Father, this is a convicting passage for us to kind of look at the speck in our own eyes before, or the plank in our own eyes before we try to take out the speck in someone else's eye. And so God, I just pray that as we check our hearts before we judge other people, that we can learn to fill in the blank with love, not fill in the blank with our own judgments or our own frustrations or just something that we don't like about someone, but we fill it in with love, and we always believe that there can be change for other people. So God, help us be a light to others by the way that we treat others. Father, we just thank you for the example that Jesus gave. And we just pray that we can live that out ourselves. We love you, Jesus, and pray this in your name. Amen. Hey, thanks guys for finishing up week 3 of our Love Hate series. Camp is this week, so if you haven't signed up, sign up right now because I need to know how many people are going to be there for food purposes. So we'll see you guys. If you're not going to go to camp, then we'll see you next week online. We're going to be starting a new series. But if you are going to camp, I will see you on Tuesday. Love you guys. Bye.
Hey Roots, I'm so glad you could join us today, and I hope this message encouraged you to let love fill in the blank. Whether it's someone you have made a judgment on for a long while or a short while, make sure to see them the way that Jesus sees them. So guess what? Camp is this week! Woo! If you want to go, we need you to sign up today. Why today? Because we need to make sure we have the right numbers of people attending so we can have the right amount of Subway and Chick-fil-A for our dinners. Trust me, you're not going to want to share either of those. If you're on the fence about camp, trust me, you're not going to want to miss it. It's going to be so fun to hang out with your friends and leaders from Roots. You can sign up at iCrossroads.org/roots and scroll down to the high school registration form. All right, thanks for joining our Roots service today. Before you sign off, stick around and chat with your online host today. Answer the questions that will be on the screen and just discuss things with your Roots fam. We'll see you guys back here online next week for a new series called The U Effect. Ooh. Bye, guys. Ooh.